Welcome to the Crime Untangled channel. Today we bring you a haunting tale, a story of fame, love, betrayal, and shocking violence. This isn't just another crime story, it's a chilling narrative where the glitz and glamour of two renowned athletes unravel into a nightmare of obsession and murder. What began as a relationship rooted in openness and trust spiraled into deceit, danger, and a series of horrifying crimes. This is the tragic and twisted saga of Jake Reynolds and Sarah Carter, a celebrated power couple in the world of sports. Their open marriage, a symbol of modern love, would ultimately lead them down a dark path of destruction no one could have imagined. Stay tuned, because this story is one you won't forget. Like, comment, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping tales. Jake Reynolds was a giant in the world of athletics. A decorated Olympian, he had achieved legendary status with his unmatched determination and multiple gold medals in track and field. Fans admired his powerful physique and relentless drive, making him a household name. Sarah Carter, his equally famous wife, was a volleyball superstar celebrated for her lightning-fast reflexes, strategic brilliance, and fierce competitive spirit. Together, they were adored by fans worldwide, a golden couple living a life of luxury and admiration. But behind the curtain of their seemingly perfect lives lay complexities that would soon lead to a chilling unraveling. Both Jake and Sarah shared a burning ambition and independence that brought them together but also created subtle tensions in their marriage. To navigate their demanding careers and maintain their connection, they made an unconventional decision. They agreed to an open relationship. They believed this choice would deepen their bond, allowing them to explore outside connections without sacrificing their love. For a time, it seemed like the arrangement worked, until it didn't. In the beginning, Jake and Sarah approached their open marriage with careful boundaries and transparency. They promised to never let external relationships overshadow their marriage, believing their respect for one another would shield them from the risks of jealousy and heartbreak. Jake, ever focused on his career, had a few discreet flings, but always returned home to Sarah, confident in their mutual love. Sarah, on the other hand, fully embraced the freedom their agreement allowed. She reveled in the thrill of new connections, finding excitement in the attention she received from others. For a while, everything seemed fine, but as Sarah's affairs became more frequent, cracks began to appear in their seemingly solid foundation. Jake noticed subtle changes in Sarah. She became more secretive, often leaving without explanation and brushing off his concerns with a reassuring smile. "Don't worry," she'd say. "I'm just enjoying the freedom we agreed on." Yet Jake's gut told him something was wrong. What he didn't realize was that Sarah's seemingly carefree life masked something much darker, something that would soon shatter their lives. What Jake couldn't see, and what no one could have imagined, was that Sarah's vibrant and charming exterior concealed a shadowy double life. Beneath her polished persona was a darkness that grew with every passing day. Her relationships with women, in particular, took a disturbing turn. What began as whirlwind romances quickly became twisted battles for control. Sarah's fiery competitiveness, once a strength in her career, seeped into her personal life in terrifying ways. She didn't just want to love these women, she wanted to dominate them. As her lovers sought to assert their independence or move on, Sarah's jealousy morphed into obsession. She couldn't bear the thought of losing them to someone else or seeing them live a life free of her control. In her warped mind, there was only one way to ensure they'd never leave her. They couldn't live without her. Literally. The first of Sarah's victims was Lena Thompson, a bright and ambitious young volleyball player with a promising future. Lena idolized Sarah, who took her under her wing as both a mentor and lover. At first, their relationship seemed like a dream, intense, passionate, and filled with admiration. But as Lena's career began to flourish, she started to drift away. She wanted to focus on her newfound opportunities, creating distance from Sarah's increasingly suffocating presence. For Sarah, this was an unbearable betrayal. The jealousy that brewed within her transformed into a sinister rage. One night, after a heated argument in which Lena expressed her desire to end the relationship, Sarah snapped. Grabbing a meat tenderizer, the same one she had used to prepare countless meals, she launched a brutal and frenzied attack. The blows were relentless, fueled by a mix of desperation, love, and hatred. When the chaos ended, Lena's promising life was extinguished in an instant. What followed was cold and calculated. Sarah meticulously cleaned the crime scene, wiping away every trace of evidence. Using knowledge she had obsessively gathered from true crime documentaries, she ensured there was nothing to link her to the murder. Finally, she disposed of Lena's body in a way that made it seem like she had simply disappeared. When the authorities began their investigation, they found no leads and no evidence of foul play. The case went cold, leaving Lena's loved ones heartbroken and confused. To the world, Sarah carried on as if nothing had happened, smiling, working, and socializing, all while hiding the chilling truth of what she had done. Lena's murder wasn't an isolated incident. Over the years, Sarah's pattern of manipulation and violence grew more sinister. Each new relationship followed a chilling trajectory, an intoxicating beginning, escalating possessiveness, and ultimately a violent end. Sarah's victims were often women who were vulnerable in some way, whether emotionally or professionally, making them easy targets for her charm. She carefully selected her partners, reeling them in with her allure and then tightening her grip. Her control over them was absolute, and when they tried to break free, her response was devastating. One of the most haunting cases was that of Emma Daniels, a talented journalist assigned to write a profile on Sarah's career. Their professional relationship quickly turned personal, evolving into a whirlwind romance. Emma was captivated by Sarah's charisma and apparent vulnerability, but it wasn't long before Sarah's darker side began to surface. Sarah's possessiveness became unbearable, and when Emma attempted to end the relationship, Sarah devised a chilling plan. She lured Emma to a secluded location under the guise of a final goodbye. There, Sarah manipulated Emma's emotions until the moment was right, then pushed her off a cliff. Emma's body was discovered days later, and her death was ruled a tragic accident. Sarah, once again, walked away unscathed. While Sarah continued her deadly spree, Jake remained blissfully unaware of the monster hiding in plain sight. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, but his love for Sarah blinded him to the truth. Whenever doubts crept into his mind, he brushed them aside, attributing them to the stress of his demanding career. He trusted Sarah implicitly, never imagining that the woman he loved was capable of such horrors. But the subtle signs were there: Sarah's secrecy, her unexplained absences, and the growing unease in their home. Jake's instincts told him something was amiss, but he didn't know how to confront it. While Sarah's affairs with women were marked by intense possessiveness and violence, her relationships with men were different. They were purely physical, at least that's how they started. But her affair with Brandon Mills, a charismatic football star, changed everything. Brandon was a married man with a reputation for charm and confidence. Their secret affair began as a thrilling escape for Sarah, but it quickly became something much deeper. She found herself drawn to Brandon in a way she hadn't experienced before. The thought of him returning to his wife sent her into a downward spiral of jealousy and obsession. Unlike her previous lovers, Brandon wasn't easy to manipulate. He was a high-profile figure, and Sarah knew she couldn't act recklessly. Desperate to keep him in her life, she began planting seeds of doubt about his marriage, whispering lies to make him question his wife's loyalty. But Brandon wasn't willing to leave his family for Sarah, and his rejection pushed her over the edge. This was when Sarah's twisted mind turned to Jake. She realized that as long as Jake was alive, Her life would always be tied to him. If Jake were out of the picture, Sarah could finally pursue her desires freely, without the burden of her husband standing in the way. The plan to kill Jake was meticulously calculated, a reflection of Sarah's chilling precision. She studied his routines, his habits, and his vulnerabilities, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. One evening, Sarah decided it was time. She prepared an intimate dinner, playing the part of the loving wife one final time. Afterward, she suggested they play a friendly game of volleyball in their backyard, a nod to the sport that had defined much of their lives together. Jake, unsuspecting and still deeply in love with Sarah, agreed without hesitation. As they played, Sarah waited for the perfect opportunity. When Jake was distracted, she grabbed a heavy iron fire poker and struck him with brutal force. The blow knocked him to the ground, but Sarah didn't stop there. She continued to attack, her rage and desperation driving her until Jake lay lifeless before her. Afterwards, Sarah staged the scene to look like a tragic accident. She carefully placed the fire poker near Jake's body and made it appear as though he had slipped and fallen during their game. To the outside world, it would seem like a freak accident, a heartbreaking end to a celebrated athlete's life. At first, Sarah's plan seemed foolproof. When the police arrived, the scene appeared to confirm her story. But one detective, Laura Martinez, wasn't convinced. Something about the scene felt too perfect. The fire poker was placed too neatly, and the blood spatter didn't align with the supposed accident. Suspicious, Detective Martinez ordered a deeper investigation. Forensic analysis revealed inconsistencies that couldn't be ignored. The injuries Jake sustained were far too severe to be caused by a simple fall, and the blood patterns indicated multiple deliberate strikes. As the investigation progressed, cracks in Sarah's story began to show. Her calm demeanor, detailed knowledge of crime scene procedures, and reluctance to discuss her relationship with Jake all raised red flags. The case took a dramatic turn when one of Sarah's former lovers, Tina Rogers, came forward. Tina, who had narrowly escaped Sarah's possessive grip, revealed chilling details about Sarah's past. Tina's testimony, combined with the evidence linking Sarah to Jake's murder, led investigators to re-examine several unsolved cases. The pattern was unmistakable. Sarah had been behind the disappearances of multiple women over the years. Sarah's arrest sent shockwaves through the world. The trial became a media sensation, with every detail of her life dissected for the public to see. Prosecutors painted a damning picture of a manipulative and remorseless killer, while the defense attempted to argue that Sarah was driven by emotional trauma and mental illness. The prosecution's case was airtight. Forensic evidence, witness testimonies, and Sarah's own suspicious behavior all pointed to her guilt. The most shocking moment of the trial came when her affair with Brandon Mills was revealed. Prosecutors argued that her obsession with Brandon and her desire to escape Jake were the motives behind her husband's murder. Brandon, taking the stand, expressed his disgust at Sarah's actions and distanced himself from her entirely. The jury was quick to reach a unanimous verdict, guilty on all counts. The judge handed down the harshest sentence possible, death. Sarah remained emotionless as the verdict was read, her once vibrant persona reduced to a hollow shell. Even after her conviction, Sarah's story didn't end. In a final act of desperation, she attempted to escape from prison, devising an elaborate plan to flee the country. Her goal, to vanish into obscurity in Antarctica. But her plan was quickly foiled, and she was caught before she could even leave the United States. This failed escape attempt only solidified her infamy. Sarah now resides on death row, awaiting her fate. The story of Sarah Carter and Jake Reynolds has become a cautionary tale, a grim reminder of how even the most glamorous lives can hide dark secrets. Their open marriage, once seen as a symbol of modern love, became the catalyst for a series of horrific events. Sarah's need for control and her unchecked jealousy led to the destruction of multiple lives, including her own. As Sarah sits alone in her cell, her legacy is not one of athletic prowess or triumph, but of devastation and infamy. Sarah Carter's crimes didn't just shock the world, they captivated it. The trial may have concluded, but the fascination with her story only grew. True crime enthusiasts, psychologists, and the general public debated endlessly. What could drive someone so successful, admired, and seemingly composed to commit such horrifying acts? Some experts argued that Sarah suffered from a deep-seated psychological disorder, one that blended narcissism, obsession, and a need for absolute control. They pointed to her calculated demeanor, her ability to manipulate those around her, and her lack of remorse as clear signs of a dangerous personality. Others suggested that the pressures of fame, combined with the unconventional nature of her marriage, created the perfect storm for her descent into darkness. But Sarah herself refused to offer any insight. Despite the global interest in her case, she turned down every interview request and remained silent, even as documentaries and books dissected every aspect of her life. Her refusal to explain her actions only added to the mystique, making her a figure of both fear and fascination. For the families of Sarah's victims, the aftermath of her crimes was a complex and painful journey. While her conviction brought some measure of closure, it could never erase the pain of losing their loved ones. Each family had to grapple not only with the devastating loss, but also with the public attention surrounding the case. Lena Thompson's family, in particular, became vocal advocates for relationship abuse awareness. Her parents started a foundation in her name, dedicated to educating young people about the warning signs of toxic relationships. If we had known what Lena was going through, maybe we could have saved her, her mother tearfully shared in an interview. Emma Daniels' family took a different approach, choosing to focus on preserving her legacy as a talented journalist. They published a collection of her works, showcasing the brilliance and compassion she brought to her writing. For them, the most important thing was ensuring that Emma would be remembered for her life, not the tragic way it ended. The media's obsession with Sarah Carter's story showed no signs of waning. True crime podcasts dedicated entire seasons to unraveling the case, examining every detail with a mix of horror and intrigue. Television networks competed to produce documentaries, each promising to reveal the untold truth behind her crimes. Even fictionalized adaptations of the story began to emerge. Streaming platforms announced dramatic miniseries inspired by the case, with A-list actors portraying the rise and fall of Sarah Carter. Critics debated whether these portrayals crossed ethical lines, but the public couldn't get enough. Social media platforms became flooded with theories, memes, and heated discussions about the case. Some users expressed sympathy for Sarah, blaming societal pressures and psychological issues for her actions. Others were outraged by any attempt to humanize her, insisting that she was nothing more than a cold-blooded killer. As Sarah sits on death row, awaiting her execution, the world continues to speculate about her inner thoughts. Does she feel guilt for the lives she destroyed, or does she see herself as a victim of circumstances beyond her control? Her once glamorous life has been reduced to isolation and infamy. She spends her days in a small cell, far removed from the adoration and luxury she once enjoyed. Letters pour in from curious strangers, some condemning her, others professing admiration or even love. But Sarah remains unresponsive, her silence as calculated as ever. The question remains, does Sarah Carter regret the choices that brought her to this point? Or does she still believe she was justified in everything she did to maintain control? The tragic story of Sarah Carter and Jake Reynolds serves as a chilling reminder of how unchecked ambition, obsession, and deception can lead to unimaginable consequences. Their open marriage, once seen as a progressive arrangement, became the spark that ignited a chain of deadly events. But was the marriage itself to blame? Or did Sarah's dark tendencies exist long before the arrangement? These questions, much like the mystery of Sarah's motives, remain unanswered. What we do know is this: behind the glittering facade of fame and success, even the most celebrated lives can hide devastating secrets. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the darkest corners of human behavior. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more gripping stories from the Crime Untangled channel.